Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video for Marker Pop. I'll be using some W+9 products today, using the gift card layers dies, the Grateful Greetings set, the Fresh Cut Florals, and Pretty Peonies. So I wanted to do a watercolor card and I wanted it to have a fall feel. So here's what I came up with. This is my pre-stamped design. I knew I was going to have to move it down, and that's also not watercolored. So I just real quickly stamped it out to try to figure out what my colors were going to be. And so this is watercolor paper. It's Canson watercolor paper. And I I cut it with this gift card layers die, and it's the size of an A2 card front, and it gives just like this really pretty stitching, but it fits your whole card front, so I love that. So I'm just using a circle die, very lightly giving myself a guide, and then I marked the center of my circle, and I'm drawing myself just a little square in the, or well, an X in the middle, so that since the design is symmetrical, I want everything to line up. I did erase the portion of the circles before I started stamping so they wouldn't be trapped. And I'm using fossilized amber, and I'm going to stamp down. It's the second layer for the Pretty Peonies. If you are a subscriber to W+9's YouTube channel, or you visit Dawn's blog, you know she showed us how to do this. I think it was like a year ago. And I am not a watercolor artist. I gotta fake it. So thank God that there's really cute stamps to fake it with. So the reason that I did the first one and didn't show you is because I forgot to zoom in. Like sometimes I'm not the brightest bulb. So I figured I would show you with the second. And I know it's kind of difficult to see because the colors are so light. But to get a good blend, I have to start with a light color. So whether I'm using distress markers or distress inks, and I'm using distress inks for the markers that I don't own, I put on my ink and then I stamp it off once before I stamp it onto my paper, so that way I can add my own shading. Distress ink is really hard to blend out if you put it on full strength. It's hard to get rid of the hard edges that you can get. So here I'm just I'm following the shape of the petal. I'm adding just a little bit of water. There's not a ton of water on my brush at all. And I'm just following, I'm going kind of like with my instinct, but if I have any questions, I just look at the stamp set because it has the 3 different layers, so I can kind of see what Dawn intended for it. And now I'm working on a Ranger craft mat. I'm just going to go ahead and smush my ink pad down so I can start adding in some shading. Now, my first flower, because I am working with such little water, my first flower was already dry, but that's okay. It doesn't mean that you can't add in shading. I'm a fan of a more blended look. We can still get that even though these are mostly dry. So I'm dropping in some shading where I want it to be, and then I'm going to give it a second to kind of dry down a little bit before I blend it in. So while I'm waiting, I'm going to go in and add the shading into the other flower. This one's going to blend a little bit easier because it's still mostly wet. There's a few areas that I kind of have to hit. And then while we're doing this, I mean, you can see this video is still almost 15 minutes long. Watercoloring just takes a long time, and I think that the result is worth it for sure. I think that it's beautiful. But so I only showed you one of each of whatever it was that I was coloring. So here I'm just going in with clean, clear water, and I have a very, Dawn calls it a thirsty brush. It's just damp. It's not a lot of water, and I'm just using that to pull the clean water into what I've already shaded so that it gives me a good blend. Some people like a harder line look, and that's okay if that's what you're into. That's just not the look that I prefer. Both are, you know, pretty, but you got to go with what you like. Here, there was maybe a little bit too much water on my brush when I did this petal and then the one that's next to it. So I'm just going to go in with a dry cloth and just kind of blot some of it up. It also takes up the pigment, but that's okay because we can add more pigment without adding more water. So everything salvageable. Watercoloring is so very forgiving, and thank God, because I have no idea what I'm doing. Just making it up as we go. So the way that I got the idea for my design is I actually went on Pinterest and I started looking at watercolor florals. I knew that I wanted to build a floral array or a wreath or something of the like. Now I'm erasing, but these are already dry, like completely dry. Don't start erasing while things are still wet. You'll tear up your paper. And then this is ripe persimmon, and I do own this marker, so I'm using the marker, and I'm going to stamp it off once and then stamp it next to my peony. And I'm going to do it on both sides, top and bottom, because like I said, it's a symmetrical design. And symmetry is one of the easiest tricks that you can use to pull together a good design. Like if you do them mirroring each other, they're guaranteed to be complementary. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to use a thirsty brush to add in a little bit of water. I like a mix of hard and soft edges. So after I get the water down, I'll go back in with clean, clear water, and sometimes I'll blur out one edge or two, usually never the same one. And then the same thing, I will scribble down the ripe persimmon onto my craft mat so that I can go in and start adding in more shading. Then I'll move to the second flower, and while I'm doing that, this is kind of drying, and then I can go in and add even more pigment. So here I've already done the one on the left, and now I'm coming back and adding more shading to the one on the right. It just helps to do that, to let them kind of dry down in between. And here I felt like that yellow flower got pushed to the back, and I was not digging that because I wanted it to be my centerpiece. So what I did was I used clean, clear water, and I went in and went over the pink parts that were covering up my yellow petals. And now I'm going to use the fossilized amber to go in and add more pigment and to bring that flower more to the front. You know, I just said it, what, like 30 seconds ago, watercolor is very forgiving. So you can make this work for you. And yes, I'm putting clean, clear water down on the pink, and I'm sure some pink's getting into my yellow, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to add more yellow on top of it, and you're never even going to be able to know. And I did this to both of my peonies just to help bring them to the forefront a little more. And then from there, I'm going to move on to the leaves, and I don't even know what was going on. I was like in the flow. I was not paying attention to the fact that I was filming, but like half the time I'm inking them up off the page. I don't know what I was doing. So basically I'm only inking up 3 or 4 of the leaves. I'm not inking up the whole thing, so that way I can stamp them down and they'll appear to be behind my flower. And then again, just adding, you know, little bits of water, and I'll scribble some pigment down on my craft mat, which I probably already did. I did. There's me picking it up. And then add in just more shading. So anyway, back to the Pinterest thing. I went on Pinterest and I looked at watercolor florals. That's what I searched. And then all of these beautiful images came up, and I was able to like pick and choose an array that I really liked and kind of make it work for me. I'm not very good at arranging flowers. I struggle with that. I struggle with getting a good layout. So I let real artists help me do that work. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's not like, you know, like you're stealing their painting or something. You're not. You're just getting an idea of where you want things to go based on layouts that, you know, other people have already done. So here I've scribbled on some peeled paint from my distress marker onto my craft mat, and I'm just going to add in some shading into those leaves. They were super, super light. I love the crushed olive, but it was just really light here. And so here now there's one single petal. Flower? What am I even saying, guys? There's one single leaf. It's just a leaf that's included in the Fresh Cut Floral set. And I wanted to use that to kind of build some different leaves and different colored leaves. So I'm stamping in crushed olive, peeled paint, and then I'll bring in some forest moss. I'm not cleaning this stamp in between. I'm not stamping each leaf the same color. It doesn't matter. It's good to have variation. So that's, yeah, I'm like, I don't care. It's fine. It's all going to be pretty in the end. So after I'm done with those, I stamped them all. It just made the most sense to do it that way. And then here, I'm just adding water. Now you can leave these like whatever look you want. Some people like really loose watercolor, some people like really tight. I'm probably somewhere in between. It's hard for me to give up the control, but I love the way it looks when I do. So I try to be like find my happy medium. Here I'm just going to scribble on the markers. They're the same colors, and then I'll go ahead and add in the shading into the leaves. If it's not spreading out far enough, I'll just add some clean clear water to help it move around a little bit. And again, I did all the leaves the same. And then at the ground espresso, this is one of the new colors from Tim Holtz, and I really love it, but I don't have one of the markers yet. So I was going to stamp it down, and I realized it's hanging over onto my flower, so I'm just going to use a baby wipe to clean up that end so I don't stamp the brown over my flower. And again, I'm going to stamp all of these down after I stamp them off one time, so second generation stamping for the whole card. And then I'm going to move on to some festive berries. And I just felt like, you know, the fossilized amber, the ripe persimmon, the festive berries were just like really good fall colors. And that was going to help me get the look I was going for. And then smushing all those colors onto my craft mat. I'm also going to add in some fired brick and some aged mahogany. I have that aged mahogany marker, but I'm telling you, I looked through my whole collection. I couldn't find it. It like ran away. So I'm just going to add very little water to the stems, you know, just to give them that watercolor look. And then I'm also going to use the ground espresso to create the inside of my flower for the peony. Well, all I did was use clean clear water, and I just put a few dots down and then picked up some of the ground espresso and just kind of dotted it around. I wanted it to look like a natural flower center, so I left, you know, some dots. It's like a wonky little circle, just like, you know, regular stamen would be in real life. Then I'm going to move on to the berries. And so I'm putting down clean clear water, and then I'm adding in some fired brick. I added very little of this to the rest of them because I felt like it got really brown, and I wanted them to be a bit brighter than that because, well, you know, I'm addicted to bright colors. And then anywhere that I just felt like there was too much pigment, I just blotted it off. I'm adding in some more festive berries, and I did the majority of my shading with the aged mahogany because I found that I liked that better. That color just has like a more pink base where the fired brick is a more brown base. And then everything's dry here. This is just me cleaning up anything I didn't like and adding in more shading. So I'm picking up some ripe persimmon to add in some more shading to my roses. And this is crushed olive and peeled paint just to add something more to the leaves. I felt like they needed some more definition. They were very, very light. And then the last thing that I did was I actually used clean clear water. I had like no highlight in my berries, like none. So I went in and just used a dot of clean clear water. I let them sit for a second and then blotted them up to kind of get a highlight. So that's the finished watercoloring, and you can see it's a very symmetrical, very clean design. And then this sentiment I absolutely love. I love that huge script Grateful, but I'm using my Misty for two reasons. First of all, because I'm stamping on watercolor paper. Second of all, because that Grateful is drawn on a angle, and it's so hard for me to line those up. I don't know why. Like, I just can't get it. So I have to use the Misty to line up the So Very, so I know that it's straight. Here I'm adding some clear Wink of Stella. I will caution you, the Wink of Stella works with, you can watercolor with it, so be careful. I added some white dots, and then that was the card panel. That's pretty much all I had. So I love the way it came out. I hope that you did too, and I will see you guys later. Bye.